this.
Hi everybody, I'm Luis.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Geek Squad!
And this is our review for The Conjuring 2, directed by James Wan.
Alright everybody, so in truest Geek Squash fashion, we're going to start this with the good. So Matt, what's good?
I thought this movie really made itself its own. As a sequel, you're supposed to do something a lot different. The first time it still honored the last one. A lot of horror movies just do complete copies. But no, this movie really stood out on its own, but still continued the groundwork from the first movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, a lot of times we were starting to get muddled in so many horror films being try to scare. And it was
a lot of jump scares.
Yeah, but it wasn't working because they were
cheap.
always very predictable, very cheap, exactly. And I think when the first Conjuring came out, it was very good, like retelling or kind of like reevaluating what a horror film should be. And they did a phenomenal job at it. And it was one of my favorite horror films in the last 10, 20 years. And then the second one kind of started off similar to the first, had similar elements, which kind of worried me, thinking like, oh, it's all just going to be the same again, like it's going to fall into that same trap of sequels. But they did a phenomenal job at keeping it just related enough that you remember what universe they're creating with the Conjuring stories, but also so very different that I couldn't even compare it to the first, because they were two very different stories that I really, really appreciated. So one thing that the last movie did is it had mostly, there was quite a few unknown actors who just completely captivated the movie and made it seem very authentic.
Yeah, I thought the mom in the last movie gave it a phenomenal performance as the possessed person.
And the kids were all great. And this time around, we got to see more focus on the kids as opposed to the adults.
I think they made each kid, except for like the one little brother, I think he had like one line. But they made most of the kids have some pretty special moments. In the last movie, there were like maybe two of the kids were the main focus, but most of the cast had like a little shining moment. But the lead little girl who played Janet did a crazy job. Like, child actors can really bring you down in a movie, but when they work, they work.
Yeah, she did a fantastic job. Completely captivated it. In the last one, in this one rather, if she was really bad, you kind of would have been hoping like, okay, let this go on to a more talented actor to portray this. Let them be the one, let the mom be possessed. That way we can see real acting of it. But not once did I even feel that, because Janet did such a phenomenal job at letting a demon take over her body. So
solid.
Yeah, great work. So one other thing that I really appreciated is, with this whole equation of what horror films are supposed to be and whatnot is, they start off relatively very low until they start building up. And one thing, once again, James Wan and The Conjuring 2 just completely changes what horror films can be, is that they throw us right into this world, right into a spiritual world, a paranormal world. And instead of having to sit there and wait and, watch everyone be happy until the hauntings take place, they immediately show us, like you said, this haunting that we won't say which one, and the way they showed it was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, how she portrayed, Lorraine Warren portrayed a person in the spiritual world, and the way that they shot that and showed how this person...
Like the way she experiences her medium trances. Yeah. Vera Farmiga did a phenomenal job. Like, both her and Patrick Wilson as Ed and Lorraine, like, they were great in the first one. They were definitely the base of the whole movie, but they really got a lot of chances to shine and show us a few things differently. And I think humor, too, was a big part of that. Like, this movie had a lot of funny moments and a lot of heartfelt moments. Like, there's one particular scene with Patrick Wilson and the family, and it kind of gets to you a little bit. And you don't get that a lot in horror movies, so...
Which I think was one of the things they succeeded at this time, is taking us on a journey with them. And I think it's a combination of that, of making us relate to the characters, making us love the characters, and also just telling a story that was similar enough to The Conjuring that you can feel like, okay, this is their job, this is what they do, these are the things they see and experience. And it really takes us on a journey where we're really invested in the world they created, invested in the haunting, and invested in the outcome of it. And it was really cool because for a while we had characters who knew there was a haunting, and we had characters who didn't. And so we're there like, come on, you have to see this. Like, open your eyes, this is happening. And the journey they took us on through the different ways that they utilize their characters, brilliant.
So was there anything in this movie that you didn't like in particular?
I think nothing that I didn't like, but I think there's some things that could have been tweaked a little just to sell the story a little more. I think that there were some parts where it just didn't feel as real or as grounded as the first one. I think the first one, you know, what we talked about, especially through the use of like CGI, we had very realistic movie, very natural movie where, you know, it was believable.
A lot of practical effects.
Yeah, very practical.
Makeup. All that stuff.
Yeah, and in this movie there was just some parts that were very synonymous to like Insidious, but kind of took it farther to where it's more supernaturally to the point where we kind of lose reality a little bit, and it's kind of like, okay, this is not as believable now, you know, like I feel like I'm watching a movie again instead of just being like, wow, I'm watching this documented.
I think something that made the first one really scary was it was so grounded in reality. It felt like it just stepped out in 1973, I think, and there was so little CGI in that first movie. And Insidious is also a movie by James Wan that I really like, but I felt like there was a lot of that influence in this movie, and it did take me out. There are certain CGI ghost effects that are just jarring and just, it's bad, some of it.
The concept of it was so cool that it made me forgive how bad the CGI was, but if it wasn't such a cool concept, just the actual CGI itself was...
Yeah. So yeah, the first one did feel very real, and I think that's one of the reasons I didn't feel as scared with this second movie. The first one was so steeped in reality, it felt so believable that I went home looking behind my back the entire time, just waiting for Bathsheba,
I mean,
the
you were
witch.
still a little scared walking home
I
after
was,
this one.
No, yeah, this one, there are some solid scares in this movie.
Yeah.
There's moments where the kids are walking through the house by themselves, and there are a few jump scares that did get me, and did get everyone else in the audience, like that guy who screamed, which
I thought was you. I laughed for like 5 minutes.
This guy
straight.
screamed in the middle of the movie. It was like the first like big scare, and this guy just screamed like, ah!
Everyone was laughing, and I thought it was you the whole time.
But no, there's some solid scares in this movie, but I did feel a little more taken out and more like it was a thrill ride, more of a movie, less of a documentary of sorts.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like, I think there were jump scares but they were very organic. They're in a very natural way. It wasn't like a cheap thrill.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
yeah.
And I think the thing that I love about James Wan, especially when he's doing horror films, is that his use of his cinematography is just brilliant. You know, like in the first movie, you have the one scene where we see Bathsheba on top of right? Is that Bathsheba?
Yeah.
On top of the dresser, and the way the camera zooms into it. To me, I distinctly remember seeing that in the theater because it was one of those moments where I knew I was going to be scared and I wanted so bad to look, but the way he presented it, my eyes were just like stuck to it. And I mean, that's how he does it. And, you know, we mentioned like scenes where the camera's naturally moving and you're thinking like, oh, there's going to be something in the mirror over here, but as the camera moves here, that's where it is.
Yeah, you definitely, you're expecting the scares, but the way the scares are presented to you surprise you.
Yeah, sometimes he delays them, and sometimes he puts them early, so they're never right when you're expecting
Yeah, like
it.
you'll expect someone to come out in this spot, and they come out in a different spot or a different way.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm really excited to see how, because there's got to be a third one on the way. Like this one already was #1 at the box office this week.
So good.
It's a solid movie as far as critics and audiences are concerned, so there's definitely going to be a third one.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to see where James Wan goes with this, where he goes with other projects, because he's really just...
He's using multiple methods, you know, like...
He's honoring stuff before, especially with the first Conjuring. It felt like an homage almost to like
he makes
early
us jump.
70s.
He makes us uncomfortable. He crawls under our skin.
And he still makes us laugh.
Like he does, yeah.
He still makes us care about the characters.
Tells a story.
He's a
and
great
that's
horror
very
director.
rare in horror. So, now it is time to rate the film. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, Matt, what are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It was a lot of fun. It's a solid horror movie out of all the crappy ones you get every year. But it wasn't as good as the first one. The first one felt super real, scared the hell out of me, and it was a solid film. This was a solid horror sequel and a solid sequel in its own right.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 9 or a 9.25. I loved it. I personally think that it told a different story, and to the point that I felt unable to compare them, to compare the first and the second. I agree with you, those technical issues just made it feel a little less realistic, so a little less scary, but still in James Wan fashion, still very scary.
Please like, comment, subscribe, and look out for our next review. Finding Dory!
Y'all, I'm gonna be like Liam Neeson in Taken. If any kids get in my way, I'm there to break necks and cash checks. I'm trying to watch this movie. I've been waiting for it for years.
I mean, me too.
Nope.
Don't murder
Anybody
kids.
gets in my way, I punch them in the throat. Zero remorse for human life.
It's fine. So please look out for our Finding Dory review. We'll be spoiler free.
Find it.
Please like, subscribe, share.
It's morphin' time. #Geek Squad!
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you later.